Just imagine if you bought a Christmas tree now.
No.
You're good. Awful.
We're on?
You're on.
We're on. Okay, if you're online, if you're on Facebook, welcome. Just say hi to let us know that you can hear us and see us properly. Oh. Turn the volume off. So you can? Okay, let's get started. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so Weight Loss and Beyond, it was a tough way to, name the talk. We weren't sure what to call it, but, there's it's so necessary today because, obesity and overweight is like over the top. We're talking about 2/3 of Americans are overweight and half of Americans are obese. And we know that obesity is at the heart of so many diseases like, diabetes, blood pressure, high cholesterol, triglycerides, cancers, and things of that nature. Also, especially during this time, during the quote-unquote pandemic, although I don't think the numbers support a pandemic right now. There's a case-demic, not a pandemic, and there's a big difference there, right? So there's a lot of cases, but there's not a lot of death. So, that's a whole other topic. But during this time, what we've also learned is that overweight and obese people are much more susceptible to having more serious symptoms. So there's a 113% increased chance of being hospitalized if you're overweight and with coronavirus, and there's a 48% increased chance of death if you're overweight with coronavirus. So we believe that there's really no better time to make very important changes to promote health, life, and vitality and well-being and losing weight and all that kind of stuff. There's no better time now. Like, if that doesn't motivate you to do it, we don't know what else will. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of myths, a lot of lies that we have to get through. I feel like people have been lied to. It's insane. You're told that a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. And I just Googled it to make sure that they still say that lie. And yeah, they do. They say a calorie is a calorie. It's the same. So if you have a bag of candy is the same thing as a bag of apples if the calorie content is the same. Everybody knows that's absolutely insane. Like, really? If you eat a bag of candy, you're going to get the same result as eating a bag of apples? That's insanity, but that's what we're told. So if you're listening to the television for ideas on weight loss, you're barking up the wrong tree. The television is telling you that the standard American diet and following the government protocols of eating grains and drinking milk and everything else that they tell you, eating conventional meats and things like that, are going to get you healthy. Well, look at how it's getting us now. We're the sickest generation that we've ever recorded in America today. As a matter of fact, we're also the sickest industrialized nation on the planet. And we have more money towards healthcare, more money towards drugs, more money towards surgeries. We have the best doctors, we have the best technology in history, yet look at the results. We have more diabetes, more depression, more anxiety, more MS, more Parkinson's, more autism, more allergies, more diabetes. You just keep going and there's more of it. You see what I'm saying? And so I feel like our job here is to wake people up to the truth. You know what? You know who you want to follow? You don't follow on news how to lose weight or how to be healthy. You want to follow people who are healthy, people who are doing it. If your doctor is smoking and telling you to stop smoking, go find a different doctor to help you. If your doctor is obese, telling you to lose weight, go find another doctor. And I say that with love and compassion because nobody says, oh, that's my ideal. I'd love to be obese and a smoker and all that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of traumas and stuff that happens in one's life to get to that point. So it's not a judgment towards the person. But I'm saying if you want to follow somebody to get a certain result, follow somebody who's doing it. Don't follow somebody who reads in a book and says, this is probably the best way. But I don't know because I don't do it in my own life. You see what I'm saying? That's why we feel like we're good examples because what we tell people, what we preach, we practice. We practice what we preach here. This isn't just a show. This isn't just ideas that we think are a good idea. This is the stuff that we live every single day, right? But if you're listening to the television, you're in trouble. The TV is telling you just to live in fear totally. They're telling you that masks protect you from a respiratory virus. That's not true. They're telling you that vaccines are safe and effective. That's not true. And they're telling you to eat the standard American diet to be healthy, and that is not true either. Is that clear? The question that you should ask is, how can I be the healthiest version, the most adaptable, the most resilient version of myself right now so I can resist all of the stresses, the viruses, everything that comes my way that I could resist and be healthy within the environment. Does that make sense? And that's why 99.5% of the stuff that's out there, the Weight Watchers, the Jenny Craig, the Atkins, the Biggest Loser, 99.5% failure rate.
Wow.
Because they count calories. That's the idea. It has nothing to do about quality. It has nothing to do about what those calories do to my body. What does a bag of candies, what does that do to my body? What does it tell my body? What kind of response does my body have towards from a bag of candies versus a bag of apples? That's the questions that we should be asking, because it's the response to the food that causes you to be healthy or it causes you to be unhealthy and increase triglycerides and diabetes and blood pressure and cancers and a whole host of different issues like that. And so this is not right. So everybody's tried this stuff. If you've tried to lose weight, you've tried something like this, and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because it's not the right approach. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if this, there's one thing is like it's finding somebody's motivation. Like, why do I want to lose weight? You know what I mean? Like, why would you want to lose weight? Oh, I want to look good. Okay, well, that's just, such a superficial motivation that it doesn't often work. You know what I mean? Like a better motivation than just to look good in a bikini would be to like, It's Dr. Alex wears a bikini once in a while. I wasn't supposed to say it. I'm sorry.
How to speed up.
That's the top two. I wasn't supposed to resist. It's a little weird. He makes us all feel a little uncomfortable. We love him anyways. But then it's like, okay, well, for my wedding, I need to lose weight for my wedding. Well, that's a little added more motivation. But then once you get down to it, the decisions you make, and I feel like this is the most motivating part, well, for me, anyways, from my perspective, is that the decisions you make today, every food that you eat, every thought that you have in terms of health, life, and vitality, it forms and shapes your genetic material today for your offspring. So generations from now, your offspring, your kids, your grandkids, all that stuff will be different because of the decisions you make today. You know what I mean? And so if you're making unhealthy decisions, the chances are that your offspring will be unhealthy as well. Never mind, how am I going to feel when I'm 60, 70, 80, 90? And am I going to be functional or am I going to be crawling to my grave on my hands and knees feeling decrepit on a whole list of medications like the average person today? Do you see what I mean? So finding that big why. This to me is a very important factor. What we know today through a specialist named Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a psychiatrist who studies the brain. And he's actually the one who broke the concussion story with NFL players 2 decades ago, right? When they realized they started autopsying the brains of NFL players, saying, oh my gosh, the impact is injuring their brains. Literally, their brains were looking like Swiss cheese. It's this Dr. Daniel Amen who discovered that, right? Well, then he studied tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of brains over the last couple of decades. And what he found is that overweight and obese people, it affects their brains. And so this is called a SPECT image of a brain. And this would be a normal body mass index individual of a normal brain, okay? This one right here is somebody who's extra. That's what's happening to your brain if that's you. And then somebody who's obese has even more of those issues and they go deeper into the brain. And so lately I've had conversations with 4 or 5 people who said, but no, for me it's like emotional, it's psychological. Because leading up to a talk, I always want to pick people's brain to see what's going on, what are they, and they're thinking, no, it's more emotional for me, it's psychological. Like I kind of need it to deal with my emotions. And you know what my answer to that is is that no, it's your actions that are going to help your emotions. It's your actions that are going to improve your psychology, because the opposite is true. You are if you are overweight or obese, at one point you were a normal brain, and your action caused your brain to deteriorate that way. It's a strong statement, brain degeneration because of being 8 to 20 pounds overweight, but you can't negate it. And so I feel like this is like enough to scare the fat out of anybody when you start to see a brain image where you're like, holy geez, I am not thinking right. My emotions are not in check. I'm not making sound decisions because of the weight that I put onto my body, that I have, the extra weight that I have on my body. So I feel like this is massive motivation from my perspective, which is why we wanted to share it from you. But at the end of the day, and this is very important, all of this gets fixed. And it boils down to one thing: how your body responds to food. So which food creates healthy response and which food creates a sick response in my body. That's as simple as it gets. And there's one hormone that will either make it or break it for you. Does anybody know what that is? Leptin? Oh, that's a who said that? Wow. That's very good. Yes. So leptin is very good, but leptin is the second in command.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of reading,
And-
how much practicing.
No, that's not true. That's not true. No, you do well. So leptin is controlled by what? There's a hormone that is above leptin that helps generate and control the function of hormone of insulin.
Insulin. Oh, yeah.
Insulin is the master control hormone of weight gain, weight loss, and in turn of inflammation and of so many diseases. And so Dr. Alex is going to come and put, I think, a very interesting and unique spin on how we either pack fat onto our bodies or how we burn fat off of our bodies through the hormone insulin. All right?
So yes, insulin is extremely important if you want to lose weight, right? So what Dr. Joel just talked about, first off, you have to have the motivation or the mission or the desire to actually lose the weight in the first place. Then when you have that, now you need to know how to actually burn the fat. And that's possibly the hardest thing, because what Dr. Joel was talking about is we're told the complete opposite of what we should do, right?
Yes.
It's not calories in, calories out. Okay, that's not the case. And it has to do with what Dr. Joel said, this hormone insulin. But to begin, as a country, obviously, like what Dr. Joel said, we're very unhealthy. And there's one issue, and that's because we consume sugar, a lot of sugar, right? And so think about this. What do you guys think is the number one source of sugar in the American diet today?
Soft drinks.
Soft drinks.
Soft drinks, that's it.
Right.
It's not soft drinks, bread.
Grains.
Yes,
Yeah.
grains, carbohydrates, okay? And so think about that. Think about the typical American diet today. What do we typically have for breakfast?
Cereal.
Bagels,
Cereal, bagels. Yes, what about lunch? Sandwich, right? And then dinner,
Rice.
pasta,
right? Pasta, pizza, okay?
bread.
Yes, bread. So this
There's
is
garlic, isn't that good?
garlic. So this is grains on top of grains, which is sugar on top of sugar on top of sugar, not to mention the soft drinks that you guys said as well, on top of the carbohydrates. Okay, so the second a carbohydrate or a bread touches the tongue, you produce salivary amylase, which breaks down the carbohydrates and turns it into sugar. Okay, so what happens is your body stores the sugar into chains called glycogen that you store in the liver. However, your liver can only store a certain amount of glycogen, and then it stores it as fat after that. Okay, so if you're eating way too much sugar, then you're going to store the excess as fat in the body. So look at this picture right here. This is the easiest way to think about it, right? So you have a refrigerator. That's like your liver or the sugar that's stored as glycogen. When that fills up, some people may have a freezer in the garage, or if you're from another state besides Florida, in the basement, right? Where you put the frozen meat. Okay, this is the fat stores. The fridge is the liver. Okay, so when that fills up, then you take food out and you take it to the freezer, correct?
Yeah.
However, when you're eating or when you're hungry or you want something quick, you only grab from the fridge, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to go all the way to the garage or downstairs to take out the meat, to take it out, right? And there's that hormone that Dr. Joel talked about called insulin, and that keeps you from being able to take food out of the fat stores or the freezer, right? So you have to control this hormone, insulin, which is produced by the pancreas. And if you're not controlling that hormone, then you're never going to be able to lose fat, okay? So there are certain things that you can do in order to control insulin. There's actually 2 things. Back in the day, we would only eat maybe 3 meals. Now, how often are we eating? What do you guys think? 5, 6, and that's including snacks, right? Who snack? When you're hungry, you go to the fridge, you grab something small to eat, and you're eating all throughout the day. What that's doing is it's increasing this level of insulin. It's not allowing you to burn fat, okay? So there's a couple things that you can do. The first thing is to eat low glycemic foods, and I'm going to get more into that a little later. But if you're eating low glycemic foods, which means that you're not going to have insulin for a certain amount of time, if you're eating those low glycemic foods, then you're able to take food from the freezer or your fat stores to the fridge and then burn it from there. Okay, so that's how you're able to control the insulin. And so the way that you do that is based on the foods that you put into your body. There are foods that are higher glycemic index, which you possibly have heard before, which I'm going to get more into in a sec. And then there's foods that are lower glycemic index. If you're eating the lower glycemic index foods, you're going to be able to burn fat from this easier, okay, instead of just using from the fridge or your liver, okay? And then the second thing is eating less often. So like I said, before it was 3 meals, now it's 5 to 6 to 7 to snacking all throughout the day. If you're constantly doing that, you're constantly going to have a higher level of insulin. It's going to protect the fat stores from leaving, and then it's going to store the fat for long periods of time. So there's something called fasting, which you can do, that's going to lower the insulin, which will then allow your body to burn from the fat stores and get rid of from the fridge or the liver as well. Does that make sense? So that's key. It's to control this hormone, insulin. And if you're not controlling the insulin, then you're never going to be able to burn fat. You're only going to have calories in, calories out. Even if, like those diets before, even if you're lowering the calorie intake, you're only slowing down your metabolism. You're only taking less out of the fridge. Okay? So you're not burning any fat. You're only getting rid of the glycogen stores in the liver. Right? And so there's 2 different indexes. There's the glycemic index, and then there's the insulin index. Glycemic index is what I was talking about earlier. These are the carbohydrates and how fast the carbohydrates turn into sugar in the body. Okay, so the top of that would be potatoes, then white bread and wheat bread, which most people think that wheat bread is so healthy that it's going to be very good for you and you're going to be able to lose weight because you're eating a sandwich with wheat bread instead of white bread, and that's not the case. It still has a high glycemic index, meaning that insulin is going to be high, protecting the body from burning fat. Okay, but then you have lower glycemic foods like chickpeas and green veggies. So you're going to want to eat more of the green veggies instead of the breads, right? Even though these are carbohydrates, it's lower glycemic index, meaning that the insulin isn't stopping the fat stores from burning. Okay? And then you have the insulin index, which are non-carbohydrate or non-sugar foods that still produce an insulin response. So if you're eating a high protein, very high protein diet, very lean protein, you're still increasing the insulin in the body. You're still not able to burn the fat because the insulin is blocking the fat from being distributed to to be burned off. Okay, and so the higher the fat content, the lower the insulin. Okay, so things like egg yolks, avocados, and butters. Back in the day, you were always told to take the yolk out of the egg, and that's completely opposite of what you should do. Okay, if you're going to eat egg, eat it with yolk because then it will lower the insulin, and then you're going to be able to burn the fat. If you're going to eat beef, make sure that it has fat in the beef, that it's a fattier piece of meat, so that you're able to lower the insulin and burn the fat stores. Completely different than what you were taught before, correct?
Yeah.
So this is the most important thing, is controlling insulin, okay? Because if you can control insulin, then you can burn fat. If you're not controlling insulin and eating constantly throughout the day, then there's no way that you're going to get to the fat stores. You may burn 5-10 pounds, but you're going to plateau. You're not going to get to where you really need to actually start losing weight. Okay, so that's crucial. Not to mention, if you have high levels of insulin for long periods of time, that's when you start getting things like diabetes and all those other issues in life. Because the insulin, the body's not able to respond well when you do try to get the blood sugar out of the sugar out of the blood. Okay? Any questions so far on that? So one thing that you need to stay away from completely is wheat. Okay? Is that a hard? That's a little hard, right? For some, but it's more than just what I was saying with controlling insulin. But there's so many issues with wheat nowadays than what there was even before, that it not only doesn't allow you to lose weight, but then also leads to a lot of other issues later on, right? Chronic diseases and all that as well, right? And so before, back in the day, ancient wheat, it would grow really tall, okay? And it was really thin. But with winds and all that, it would tip over, and then it would get rotten easy. So then what they had to do was what's called hybridize the wheat, which would make it shorter so it wouldn't tip over easily. But then it also made the top part very thick so they could still get a high yield of wheat, okay? But the issue is, over time, that's also increased the gluten levels, which you're not able to digest. Right? So if you eat wheat in this country, it's hard to digest, and you've heard of someone being gluten intolerant. Most people are gluten intolerant because gluten is essentially just glue. That's the Latin term for glue. Is gluten. It's to hold the bread together when you make the bread. Okay, and so you're not able to digest it. And now that there's way too much gluten in it, now you're not able to digest it even more so because there's way too much and your body's not able to digest it. Not only that, but it's a protein that brings another protein into the gut called zonulin. And what zonulin will do is it will attach to the gut lining. Okay? What that will do is then open the gut membrane. Have you guys heard of leaky gut syndrome before? What that will do is it will open the gut lining, which will then allow food to get through the gut lining into the bloodstream, which will lead to inflammation, lead to Crohn's disease, multiple allergies. It's autoimmune diseases, because when it gets into the bloodstream, the body is then trying to attack what it appears to be foreign. Not only that, it leads to inflammation of the brain as well, because the body sees the brain tissue like gluten and it tries to attack it. And so then it starts breaking down, then you start getting memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, all these other issues because you're eating wheat that's not allowing your body to digest it properly. So not gluten, increase in insulin, but then also they spray it with glyphosate, which they try to kill all the wheat at the same time so they're able to harvest it all at the same time. It's a chemical that leads to multiple issues later on that Dr. Joel will talk about.
We're going to talk about glyphosate, yeah. Great. So that means no wheat, just in case you didn't get that. It means you have to cut wheat out of the diet, right? Gas, bloating, if you're farting a lot, if you're gassy, if you're bloated, that's signs that there are gaps in your intestinal lining, like he was just showing, that larger proteins are getting through there that shouldn't be getting through there, okay? So that's very important. Now, on top of the issue with gluten, they spray all of the wheat with glyphosate. They spray actually most grains with glyphosate. It's the most widely used pesticide on the planet. There are 250 million pounds of it that are used every year just in America. Okay, and I don't know if you guys have, this is Roundup, weed killer, right?
Wow.
So I don't know if you guys have watched the news in the last 6 months to a year, but there's been major court cases. They took Monsanto, and it's now owned by Bayer. So they took Bayer to court and Monsanto, and their 3 court cases have gone through now, and they've awarded over $2 billion in settlements because not only does glyphosate cause obesity, but it causes cancer as well. And this can be measured on all of the food on your table that is conventionally grown. So that's not organic, right? There's a reason why we say buy organic food. And some people are stuck in this weird mentality that it's going to cost them too much money. You got to get over that because you can measure the glyphosate in your cereal. You can measure the glyphosate in your bread every morning that you're ingesting. And it's on soy, it's on all the oats, it's on everything, every cereal you can measure it. It's insane. So every American who's been tested for glyphosate has shown to be positive. Now the good news is that they also did research where they took urine analysis of Americans for 52 weeks. And out of those 52 weeks, 2 of those weeks at separate times, they gave them 100% organic diets, right? And the level of glyphosate dropped by 90% plus. So you can literally measure this stuff and it's coursing through your bloodstream at all times. This glyphosate blocks an enzyme in the liver called cytochrome P450. And you know what cytochrome P450 does? It allows you to break down fat in your liver, the fridge he was talking about. But if you have glyphosate, you won't be able to break down the fat. So you become resistant to losing weight if you're eating conventionally raised, conventionally grown products. Isn't that insane? Here's the other thing that glyphosate does. It inhibits your ability to extract cobalt, magnesium, and zinc. Cobalt, magnesium, and zinc from the food, right? Cobalt you need because cobalt makes vitamin B12 in your body. You wonder why you have no energy? Most likely because these chemicals that we're ingesting with our food is not allowing us to make B12. So now you can go to the mall and get B12 shots because we're poisoning ourselves with the food. It's insane when you think about it, right? What's manganese for? Manganese is to help protect from allergies. Right? And so all of a sudden, now we have a whole host of people who are allergic to everything because of the chemicals and because of the grains that we're eating. It's a whole mess. What's zinc for? Zinc helps kill viruses. That's why they're recommending people take vitamin D and vitamin C and zinc right now in this time. Yet you're not absorbing it because of glyphosate. So when you look at the big picture of things, you're like, wait a minute, the way we're growing foods is insane. And so when we come along and we say, oh, buy organic, easy for you to say, I can't afford organic. Oh, yes, you can. Add up your medical bills and then add up your food bills together and look at how much that costs you. And then you eat organic and add up your medical bills and your food bills. It's way cheaper to eat organic, even if it costs more at the counter. And it's not that's much more. But by the way, that's just the reality of it, right? And so glyphosate is a disaster. It's an absolute mess. It's a known carcinogen, and it will inhibit weight loss. Organic foods contain higher levels of nutrients, lower levels of pesticides, obviously, and there are many health benefits to it. So it's very interesting. So I wanted to talk about glyphosate. The other thing I want to talk about is milk. Now you're loving me even more. right? And why do I want to talk about milk? Let's just think. I think the first person who decided, hey, there's a cow, let's just go and like squeeze whatever's out of that udder and like put it in our coffee, and I think that's a great idea. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird when you think about it, but that's okay, right? But what is milk, cow's milk, designed to do? Who's it for?
Feed the babies.
Pardon me?
Feed the babies.
It's feed the calves, right? And a calf goes from when they're born, how much does a calf weigh? Right?
45, 50.
Yeah, something like that. Do you know exactly, Michelle?
60.
Right? But let's say it's like 50 pounds or something. But it goes from 50 pounds to 800 pounds in months, in a matter of months. And so the milk is designed to fatten that calf up extremely quickly. So if you want to get fat as fast as possible, do what the government recommends. And you know what the government recommends? Have 3 glasses of milk every single day. Now, never mind, we're also adding all the other chemicals, the antibiotics, the growth hormones, the steroids, all of that, the glyphosate, because they're eating grains to get them fat, right? So like Alex said, stop eating grains. They feed cows. Cows are supposed to eat grass. They feed them grains to get them fat as fast as possible too. And then we turn around and we drink the milk, which makes us fat. Now we learn that exosomes of pasteurized milk cause obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure in the humans. And what are exosomes? Exosomes are little molecules that communicate. We talked earlier about how your body responds to the food that you eat, and there's a difference between candy and apples. Well, part of that communication of telling your body how to respond for food is done through exosomes. And exosomes in pasteurized milk that's conventionally grown tells your body to put weight on and to start creating disease, just like toxic chemicals do. Are you guys getting this? Right? And so my advice to you is go 4 weeks, go 1 month and cut out all dairy and see how you feel. Just see how you feel. Look at how feel your gut, feel your energy levels, notice your allergies, notice your postnasal drip, notice all the stuff notice the achy and swollen joints, notice all the stuff that you're dealing with, and see what it feels like 4 weeks after cutting out dairy completely. Because this programs your body for obesity and disease. So follow the government and take 3 glasses of it a day. Or don't.
How about the silk milk? I mean,
Yeah, so there are all kinds of great milk alternatives. There's almond milk, there's hemp milk, there's coconut milk, which is probably the best. Coconut milk because it's super high in fat, and so yeah, we use alternatives. Now, if one must have milk, it has to be grass-fed, organic, and it has to be non-pasteurized, non-heated. But I even say, don't do any of that for a month at least and see how you feel. You'll start losing weight and feeling so much better, guaranteed, just like with the grains. Any questions about that? Oh, you're gonna love the next one. You're gonna love the next one.
Hey, look at me over
The next one. This is our first encounter. This is why. So the next one, I'm just gonna preface here really quickly because I know I'm going here against like this whole cultural phenomenon. It's not just in our culture; it's around the whole world. And I'm going to be talking negatively about like. Not a God, but something that we put as next to God, I would say. Wine. Caution. Wine. Yeah, that's good. For you, it's wine. For the rest of the world, it's coffee. I'm kidding. Right? And so what's the issue with coffee? Right? The issue, I have a couple. You could find benefits from coffee. So I'm not saying you can't find benefits, but if you want to lose weight as fast as possible, right? Coffee is a diuretic. What's a diuretic? Does anybody know what that
makes you pee.
Yeah, it makes you pee. So it makes you pee a lot. That's what caffeine does. It makes you pee a lot. And so when you're peeing, you're getting rid of not just water. There's all kinds of minerals in there, like sodium, for example, that you're peeing at the same time. So when you're peeing excessively, you're losing minerals. When your body is losing minerals, what do you think its reaction is to do? It wants to store minerals.
Store, yeah.
And what is the hormone of storage in our body? It's insulin. And so drinking coffee elevates insulin levels. It doesn't affect the blood glucose or the glycemic levels like he was talking about, but it does affect glucose level, insulin levels. You see what I mean? And so I don't believe this is a deal breaker, because I've met a lot of people who've lost tons of weight while they were drinking a little bit of coffee. But if you can cut it out, do it, but absolutely reduce it. You can absolutely reduce it. The other issue is obviously it decreases blood flow to the brain, and there it is right there. You get a 27% decrease of blood flow to the brain with 1 cup of coffee a day. 1 cup of coffee a day, 27 decreased blood flow of oxygen to the brain.
And that's funny because a lot of people say, I can't think in the morning until I have my cup of coffee.
Yeah, so I can't think in the morning till I have my coffee is
I've heard
because
that before.
of the exogenous adrenaline effect, which is short-lived, right? And so you get this adrenaline-like, because caffeine acts like a hormone, but it's not a hormone that your body makes, because your body makes adrenaline, but it acts like adrenaline, right? And so you drink this, and then you're like, hey, whoa, my pupils are dilated, my brain's on, I have energy, whoa, let's go. But it's coming from an external source. So then your body, what do you think it does with its adrenaline levels? It decreases its adrenaline levels because you don't need to produce it because you're getting it exogenously or from outside of the body. You see what I mean? So what happens then is now you need to go from 1 cup in the morning to get awake. Now you need maybe 2 cups in the morning. And then eventually you need, well, maybe I need a little cup at lunchtime or after lunch so I can get a little pick-me-up there too. Because you've trained your body to be dependent on exogenous adrenaline. Doesn't that make sense? It's like a very simple concept. I find like no one talks to people about this kind of stuff because of the sacred cow called coffee. And I have an office manager who's looking at me and she's throwing darts with her eyes at me right now. Oh, I just got pierced. I just felt it land. Nice aim. That was good, right? But no one talks about this kind of stuff. But these are the issues that we have with coffee. Now, again, I said, and I'm going to say it again, it's not a deal breaker, but be conscious of it because it's affecting insulin levels and it will slow the weight loss if that's your goal. Does that make sense? So we just talked about a couple of bad things here that we wanted to highlight, but let's give you the plan, okay? So I want to give you a very simple 3-step plan that I guarantee you, listen to me, it's a guarantee. There are very few things in life that are guarantees. But if you follow this plan, whether it depends on the person now, but whether it's 30 days or 60 days, that you will have significant results if you follow it to a T. This is a very simple plan, okay? Well, we think it's simple. Others think it's not so simple. Step number 1 in the 3-step plan is you start with a 3-day bone broth fast. That means you eat nothing except bone broth. Okay, I want to get that. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Why are you laughing? No, this is good. This is a real. Tell me. Why are you laughing like that? No, this is real talk. I want real talk.
Eating bone broth. I thought you would drink it.
You drink bone broth.
You drink it.
Thank
It's
you
like
for
a soup kind of.
Right? So it's soup. It's the soup base basically. Why do I say this? You can replace bone broth with water. You can just have a water fast for 3 days. You know why I do that? Because when you fast, it empties the fridge and it goes straight to the freezer literally within 24 hours. And so you're starting to burn fat and utilizing the fat. You know what it's called? It's called autophagy. Autophagy. That means you're eating yourself. You're eating the fat stores that you stored over the course of years. And some people will say, well, isn't that dangerous? What do you think the longest fast, water fast, that means eating nothing. What do you think the longest one on record is?
10 days?
10 days? Good.
15 days.
Well, 35 days.
75 days, 30 days,
No,
Right?
It was a few months.
383 days.
Yeah, I know that was
Oh my
long.
gosh.
No, not Gandhi.
Not long.
Not Gandhi. The guy lost like 300 and something
Oh
pounds.
my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah,
I said, how would this
383.
bone-
What
this
did he
bone
start out at?
400 and something pounds, and he went down to 160 pounds. He went down to the proper weight that he was
Just
supposed
water.
to, based on the size. He just had water, and they added a little bit of salt for minerals. That's it. He was tested and guided the whole time, right? And there was literally, because he had stored so much fat. The reason we store fat is because we didn't always have Publix down the street or Food and Thought or Seat to Table, right? And so if we were without food for a period of time, we stored it and we used the fat that we stored for energy because it's the best source of energy. And so people are terrified of fasting, but they're only terrified because they're scared that they don't get to have their coffee and bagel in the morning or their cereal or whatever, or their pizza. Do you see what I'm saying? But when you do it this way, and I add bone broth so that you don't get hungry. You know what I mean? So that you can just have bone, and bone broth it's full fat, it has proteins, it has carbohydrates, and it's fully mineralized as well. So you're getting tons of the essential micronutrients that you're supposed to get, so you're not being deficient there at all. And so you only do it for 3 days, it's not long. It sounds like a long time, it's not long. Yes.
Remember that diet was a fat, well, now it's a fat HCG diet.
HCG diet, yeah.
So is that the principle of that everybody gains the weight back? You
No,
know, when you're eating your own, like you just said, you're eating your own body or you're eating, I guess, the fats. So you have that HCG diet. I was on that diet and I lost 50 pounds and it was great, but
yes.
it just comes back.
Well, it comes back because you're still doing what Alex described with insulin. And so our step 3 deals with exactly that. Because anybody could lose weight. You could start, if everybody starves themselves, they're all gonna lose weight.
So when you're
Right?
saying a 3-day bone fast, okay, how much bone broth?
Doesn't matter,
As much as you want.
as much as you need.
And with supplemented with water?
Just water, you can drink as much water as you want, and when you get hungry, my recommendation is drink water, because it'll take your 10 out of 10 hunger down to a 4 or 5 out of 10, which is manageable. And then you just do bone broth. It's like soup. You can have it, you can put it in a cup, you have it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, in between, it doesn't matter, because it's low glycemic. It's essentially, it's healthy fats. And so it helps your body burn fat. Fat is not bad for you. Fat is healthy for you. In order, if you want to lose fat, you need to eat fat. And that's the most difficult concept for people to get. If you want to lose fat, you need to eat fat. People think they can't eat fat. No, you need to eat fat to teach your body how to burn fat. You become a more efficient fat burner when you put fat in your body. Can I say it in a different way that might get the neurons to connect somehow? You know what I'm saying? Right? So we start with a 3-day bone broth fast. Now you can get it at Costco or Target. Buy organic, it's $3.99. That one doesn't taste as good in my opinion. They make a whole excellent homemade one at Food and Thought, but that one is like $10.99. It's more expensive, but it's way, way, way better because it's homemade. The other one's in a box. You see what I'm saying? But the choice is yours. So you can literally go to Target or to Publix or wherever, Costco, and get the one out of the box, or you can get it from Food and Thought, right? And pardon me?
Or make your own.
Yeah, you can make your own for sure, but it's like an 8-hour process.
Use bone marrow,
Mhm.
right? Bone-
Yeah. Yeah, you boil the bones. You boil the bones, the tendons, the ligaments. Super healthy, super good for your skin, collagen. I mean, all soups
I
are
like
made of
this.
that kind of stuff, right? And it actually tastes, the one at Food and Thought I'm telling you right now, it tastes excellent. You put a little salt and pepper in there, and it tastes fantastic. Okay, that's step 1. Yes, question?
Does this keep at room temperature? Do you have to refrigerate?
No, you refrigerate it.
Or-
Yeah, I mean, it keeps when it's in that tear pack box, right? So you can put that in your cupboard, but once you open it, you refrigerate it. Yeah.
Can you supplement it with tea, non-caffeinated, like green tea or something? Or that's not-
You can, but I would just say, just stick with the bone broth. The other benefit of this is because most people's gut linings are injured because of the massive amounts of sugar and the massive amounts of grain that people eat, is this is rich in glutamine, which is a glue that helps heal the gut lining. So as you're gonna activate your fat burning, you're also healing your gut lining doing this. I have a question online.
Yes, you do. Is it beneficial to do the fast for more than 3 days?
Oh, absolutely, you can do it for longer, right? So people have done that for 30 days easy. But it's not necessary to do it for 30 days. I'm just saying you want to kickstart your fat burning, go at least 3 days. At least 3 days, yes.
Can you drink it like cold? Does it have to be like soup hot or?
No, you can drink whatever you like. Cook it first. You got to cook it, boil it
Boil
once.
it first.
Yeah, and then you can do whatever you want, but most likely it'll taste better warm. Yeah. Okay, step number 2. You guys ready for this one? So now once we start introducing food after our 3 days, we're going to do what's called intermittent fasting. Who's heard of intermittent fasting? It's like a trendy kind of term right now, so half the room. So intermittent fasting means that, very, very simply, just to do the math, right? You don't eat for about 18 hours, and you eat for 6 hours during the day. And again, why would we do that?
Burn fat
How do we burn fat doing that?
in the off hours when you're not eating.
In the off hours, what happens to your insulin levels? It drops down to
It
0.
goes down.
And if your insulin levels are at 0, what are you using for the energy?
You using your fat.
You're emptying the fridge, the glycogen stores in your liver, and you're accessing the fat in the freezer, the fat in your body for energy. It's just how it works. So it's very, very simple. So just think about this. You can eat for 6 to 8 hours during the day, but let's say it's 6. So you go 10 to 4, or you go 12 to 6. So you skip breakfast. Oh no, skip breakfast. Wait a minute. I was told the most important meal of the day.
Important meal of the day.
Who do you think told you that?
Tony the Tiger.
Tony the Tiger? Look at this. Who do you think this is? Who do you think that is?
The owner of the cereal.
Yeah. Why do you think they told you that their cereals are the most important meal of the day? Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. We're connecting some dots here. Something sounds nefarious. This doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? Your energy levels will be amazing if you skip breakfast. On purpose, knowing that you're burning fat. You'll have phenomenal energy levels. You've done it.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, and what's your experience?
There's been days where I've done intermittent fasting. Initially it was tough, but there's been days that I intermittent fasted, and by lunchtime, I throughout the morning I had more energy than I've ever had.
Yeah, because when you burn your own fat, you're still getting the energy, and it's total focus because your insulin levels are low. So you're like super zoned in and focused. Your energy is fantastic, and you're almost like, should I even eat?
I almost didn't even eat lunch.
Exactly.
Because
You feel so good.
I wasn't even hungry by lunchtime.
Exactly. So it's intermittent fasting. What fasting does is it basically ignites all the regenerative pathways in the body. So it helps you regenerate. It reduces pain and inflammation. All the symptoms that we talked about before improve when you start intermittent fasting. And then step number 3, any questions about intermittent fasting? So depending on your lifestyle, it doesn't matter. You can eat from 6 in the morning till noon, right? But it takes 14 to 16 hours to get to a state where you're burning your own fat for energy. Just to give you an idea. Yes.
During the 6-hour window of eating,
Yeah.
is there like something like a specific plan?
That's what I'm giving you. That's step number 3. Okay, so step number 3 is the advanced plan. And this is the actual food that you can eat. And Dr. Alex is going to go over that with you guys.
Yes.
Okay?
So all you guys have a piece of paper that looks like this. Hopefully y'all grab one before coming in. So on this is the advanced plan, and it's not, we don't like the term diet, right? It's not a diet, it's what you should be putting in your body, which are just whole foods, okay? It's organic and whole foods, that's it, right? And so if you look at this, it says plant-based fats and proteins, raw nuts and seeds. So when you're going to eat nuts and seeds, which are really good sources of fats, you're going to want to make sure that they're raw, and you don't want the roasted ones because they're heated up with oils, cooked with oils, which the oils become hydrogenated, which means that the oil becomes rancid and becomes toxic to the body. Okay, so make sure they're organic and raw nuts and seeds. Okay, and then so this list tells you exactly what you're able to eat. The only thing that we would cross out is the dairy products. Okay, at least for right now. But he mentioned that if you are going to eat dairy products, that you're going to eat the right ones, right? But for now, I would completely just cross that out.
Yeah.
almond butter, macadamia butter. I would stay away from peanut butter. Coconut products, very good sources of fat, whether that's coconut butter, coconut oil. The best oil to cook with would probably be your coconut oil. If you're going to heat at higher temperatures, grapeseed oil, but in moderation. You don't want to cook olive oil at really high temperatures, because same thing with the nuts, it becomes hydrogenated or it becomes rancid. So olive oil you want to use only for salad dressings, okay? Salad dressings that you can make at home. Because if you were to go to the grocery store and buy just whatever salad dressing that even has only olive oil, if you turn it around, you're going to see multiple different sugars and additives and preservatives in it, okay? So the best thing to do is to take these ingredients and make your own dressings and make your own everything else, okay? Animal proteins, make sure they're organic, make sure they're grass-fed, grass-finished as well, and not grain-finished, because if the cow is fed grains, it's the same thing as with us with the sugars. It turns into sugar in the body, which then becomes inflammatory to us when we eat the meats. Okay, so grass-fed, grass-finished, organic meats. Okay, fish, make sure it's wild, not farm-raised. And then the vegetables. Here's a list of vegetables and fruits. You'll notice that there's not every fruit and vegetable on this list. Okay, and the reason why is because of the insulin. The lower glycemic index fruits and vegetables is what you want to eat. Okay? So if you're eating something like beets or carrots, corn, it's a higher glycemic index, which will increase the level of insulin in the body, and then you'll never be able to lose the weight. Not to mention the inflammatory process that it affects to the gut.
Can I just say that that's not for the rest of your life, that's till you get to your ideal, whatever it is. If you have high blood pressure, you want to lower your blood pressure. High cholesterol, you want to lower your cholesterol. You want to lose X amount of pounds or whatever. Once you get to your ideal, then you can start to increase then other fruits and vegetables that are, because it's not like we're saying carrots are unhealthy for you. We're just saying we need to deal with the insulin issue. Does that make sense? Right? So broad strokes, this is a high fat, medium carbohydrate, medium protein diet. So it's a very well balanced diet. High fat, medium carbs. Where do you get the carbs? Yeah, you get them from green veggies, basically, and you get some berries and stuff like that. And then medium protein. And we don't eat high protein like Atkins, because high protein turns into sugar.
Into sugar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a uniform, acceptable minimum to be called organic?
Yes.
Or is it all over the place and you have to be careful of who you're buying from?
Well, of course, there's always some exceptions, but if you just go to USDA organic, there's a minimum standard that's decent. I don't think it's the best, but I think it's much better than buying regular conventional stuff. And actually, you can measure the difference. So it's worth it.
So when you intermittent fast, you use the advanced plan.
Yes.
During the time of eating.
But it's
yes.
not a separate thing that you first intermittent fast for a few weeks and then you go to the advanced plan.
Correct. You do 3 days of bone broth, and then you go to intermittent fasting with the advanced plan. Yeah.
I noticed chicken is not on here. Is that valuable?
No,
You can have chicken.
you can have chicken. Just make sure it's organic.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So what are some meals? We have a lot of different websites. We have books with recipes. This is just an example, right? Breakfast, omelet muffin, berry smoothie, Mexican for lunch, Mexican vegetable salad. I don't even know what that soup is.
Gazpacho.
Oh, it is. What is it?
Cold soup.
Cold soup.
Yeah.
It
It's
is.
Italian.
Dinner, chicken pesto, and spaghetti squash. And so those are examples of what would go along with the advanced plan that you'd be eating during the time that you're not fasting.
Okay, but see, you got this broken down breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So breakfast, lunch, dinner can be a span of 12 hours.
Yeah, correct. So some people are going to do their intermittent fast and have breakfast and lunch and not eat dinner. And others are going to have lunch and dinner and skip breakfast.
Oh, okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it depends on when you choose to eat, depending on your lifestyle.
Should we be intermittent fasting every day or? just
Yeah,
a couple days a week?
I would say if you want to accelerate it as fast as possible, that first 30 days, you do it every day, and you'll get incredible results. I mean, wait, you lost how much? 35?
35 pounds.
Yeah, 35 pounds in a little over a month.
And I was only intermittent fasting twice a week.
Twice a week, yeah.
So that's what your plan calls for.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's a very hard thing? I have IBS, and it's very frustrating. I can't eat lettuce, I can't eat cucumbers, I can't eat tomatoes, I can't eat melon, I cannot eat anything raw. And how do you handle a person who can't eat anything raw? I'm sorry to say this, either I get sick to my stomach, or I
Yeah.
I mean, what can I do? I mean, when I can't eat a lot of these foods that are supposed to be healthy for you and good for you without getting very sick from them. And it's very frustrating when you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to do the best you can, but I just can't handle it. And they're trying everything, the gastrointestinal doctor, to try to find out what it is, but so far they haven't really come up with a lot of things. You know what I mean? The only thing he could try to say was that maybe my gastrointestinal tract never developed into a mature gastrointestinal tract. Maybe it's still stuck in the child's thing, as far as not going into an adult's,
So I was years
I don't
ago,
know how to
probably 15
handle
years
this.
ago, I was invited to speak at the Crohn's and Colitis, the IBS Foundation of Canada's national convention, and it was myself and it was a doctor researcher from Stanford University. And here's the difference between him and I. Okay, he was brilliant. I'm not. He knew everything about the disease and every pathway about the disease. I didn't. He knew nothing about how to get a person well. I did. You see the difference? So he knew all the technicality, and I was enlightened. I was loving the talk. I thought it was fantastic, right? But he knew nothing about. And so they would come up with stories like, well, maybe your gastrointestinal tract is still a child. No, it's not.
Oh, that's
No,
what he
it's-
told me.
Yeah, and so at the end of the
I'm
day,
just
what
curious.
must occur are, well, there's two major things. Sometimes there's three, depending on the person. But one is whatever hits your guts, whatever hits your digestive tract must be healthy, and it cannot be inflammatory whatsoever. Toxins in foods, sugars, bad fats, bad oils, all that stuff must go. We can sit down with you and we can work out what you can eat that's cooked and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be raw at the beginning. What's cooked that you already know you can deal with healthfully. You know what I mean? Your intestinal tract can heal. I've seen lesions that are like this long, that are like injuries inside from colonoscopies of patients who brought me the images of lesions, and within 6 months those lesions are completely healed and they're bright pink, beautiful looking colons, if that can even make sense, right? And they're what they're supposed to be 6 months later, having followed these basic principles that we're sharing with you right now. So my advice number one is stop looking at what you can't eat and start looking at what you can eat that fits within these parameters, right? A bone broth cleanse for you is of utmost importance because it begins the healing process of your digestive tract. And you'll never hear that from a gastroenterologist. All they'll do is put you on anti-inflammatory medications for the rest of your life, and once it gets bad enough, they start cutting off sections of your colon. I know that. My father died of colon cancer that metastasized to his liver 20 years ago.
My dad.
And I ended up moving into a house where the neighbor was my dad's surgeon from years ago. And so we were out in the yard one day, and he was there, and he's like, "Oh, I still remember your dad talking about my father and stuff like that." And he goes, "But you'll never die of colon cancer." And I thought, well, this is interesting. Like, here's this guy, gastroenterologist, saying, "I'm never going to die of colon cancer." I like this. I'm like, well, what do you mean? How can you tell me that? He goes, oh, very simple. Because when we find it, we'll just keep cutting it out until you no longer have a colon. That was literally a very, very bright man who I love and respect and admire, that was his advice. And I was like, that's not the route that I want to go. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the mentality. So if you're hanging around with those types of people, you're going to end up doing what those types of people tell you, right? And not getting the results. You can reverse Crohn's disease. You can reverse ulcerative colitis. Any IBS, you can completely reverse it. But it takes work, and it takes following basic principles. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Where's the sauerkraut on here?
Oh, sauerkraut's great.
Okay, so I make my own sauerkraut.
Yeah, we're good at that.
Apples.
Yeah. Apples, Granny Smith. Granny
Yeah,
Smith
that's
is
it.
the glycemic index.
Good. Okay.
Any other questions?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Honey powder, garlic powder, and
Yes, absolutely. We love using like herbs and spices and stuff like that because there's all kinds of micronutrients in there. So absolutely, but just be careful. Be careful because when you read the ingredients, a lot of the stuff is going to have MSG or they'll have added sugar in it, and added sugar is going to spike your insulin. Listen, we're so addicted to sugar nowadays that even in table salt, if you buy salt, they add sugar to table salt so you eat more of it. It's disgusting. It's manipulative. It's like deceitful stuff. But it's because they know we're so addicted to sugar. You see what I'm saying? So read the ingredients. That's all I mean. But when it comes to, he already said, like, when it comes to salad dressings, you're going to have to make your own most likely unless you go to a health food store. You know what I mean? Because they're going to be made with bad oils, guaranteed. Right? So olive oil, a little balsamic, a little squeeze of lemon on there, a little salt and pepper, you're good.
Quick question.
Yeah.
With this, I mean, obviously we're all just human and people cheat on their diets or quote-unquote lifestyles. That's why we're here. Doing something like this, I see all the benefits. Say I did it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Then I went out to dinner and I ate shitty food.
Yeah.
How do you get yourself
back?
back?
I love it.
That's
So good.
real life living. I mean, people, it's hard. Not many people could do this for a lifestyle. They're gonna cheat. They're gonna have Thanksgiving. They're gonna have Christmas. They're gonna have a piece of birthday cake. And maybe it's totally wrong to do so, but how do you get right back on it? And
So here's what happens. Okay, this has been my experience. Is that if you, first of all, you do this by day 5, 6, and 7, you feel like, day 5, 6, or 7, you feel like crap. Okay, because you start, your addiction to sugar stops, and you start to burn fat for energy. And for a percentage of people, if your diet's way far off, you feel like crap and you want to quit. FYI, just FYI. But if you overdo that and you do it for 2 weeks, you'll start to feel better. Your energy levels, your focus, just everything's going to start to work in the right direction. Then you have a piece of cupcake at a party. And you know what happens?
feel like shit.
You feel like crap. And I believe that if you're able to listen to your body, right, you're like, I'm not ready yet. My aunt did this for 3 months, and she ate a piece of bread. Just one piece, not even the whole slice, like a piece at a restaurant that you dip in olive oil and stuff. And she ate a piece of bread, and she literally had a migraine. She felt dizzy, and she felt sick for a day.
Wow.
And she was freaking out at me at the time. This is a long time ago. But she was freaking out. She's like, I'm following, and I ate bread, and I feel like, and I just said, it's because you're not healed yet. You've injured all the insulin receptors so bad in your body that they haven't healed yet. And so she wasn't ready yet. So I believe it's the best thing that could happen to people if they cheat and feel like crap, because then you know, I'm not ready yet. Do you see what I'm saying? And if you listen to your body like that, then you develop a diet that's right for you. Not the one that I tell you is right, but then you'll say, oh, these apples, I feel really good on these apples. Oh, I have this food, and it doesn't work well for me. I don't sit well with this type of food, and you eliminate that. Then you become, or you create a diet that's perfect, and I want to say perfect, but that's great for you and healthy for you based on how you feel, because you eliminate all the crap that's making you feel like crap constantly, right? And when you eliminate that, then you get to listen to your body and be like, yes, no, yes, yes, yes. So that's the best explanation I have there.
So jumping right back into like a 3-day cleanse, is that something Like for yourself?
I mean, you can. I mean, so I don't do 3-day cleanses on a regular basis, but I just did a 6-day apple fast. Just out of curiosity, I don't know. I do all kinds of weird stuff because I like to try it on myself first. But I do water fast for a week. But probably every quarter I do some type of fast, whether it's bone broth. A lot of times I like to just do water because I find like it's more of a mental challenge. Bone broth is so easy because you're still getting all the nutrients that you need and stuff. So it's easy to do. Yes.
What if you're used to drinking a lot of coffee?
A lot of
Would you
coffee.
recommend just trying the bone broth right off the bat, or would you recommend
But even if
reducing the coffee for like a week?
no,
So there-
no, do
you know
the
what
bone
I'm
broth, do the bone broth, and then have coffee as needed, but reduce it as much as possible. Yeah.
Can I say one thing in relation to what Lou was saying here?
Yeah.
For me anyways, this is my own experience, but most conventional diets, I think you always have that desire to cheat at some point.
Yeah.
But for me, after the second or third week of doing this, I had no desire
Exactly.
at all because I felt so good. And I didn't want to do anything to hurt that. I really felt that good.
Well, and
And
the
I'm
other
not just saying that. That was again my personal experience, but
I'm so excited about that. Thank you. So Dennis, thank you for sharing that because it's so true. And the other thing is when your insulin levels, when you're able to control your insulin levels, you're now not craving sugar all the time.
right.
So you can stand at a sugar table at a buffet and have zero interest in this food. None. I know this stuff doesn't feel like, come on guys, you guys know, you eat a bag of chips, the whole bag, and a box of crackers, and you still don't feel full, or you don't feel satisfied. You're still hungry because you're not getting the right nutrients. Once you nutrify your body, where you fill it up with good nutrients, you don't get that anymore because your body's not sending those signals to you anymore. You see what I mean? So that happens way less. Yeah, in the first couple of weeks, absolutely you're gonna have those. After a couple of weeks, 30 days is usually when the cravings go away completely. The cravings are gone because your insulin levels are low and you're not desperate because you're fully getting everything that you need from the foods that you're supposed to. Yeah.
What's your opinion on the, almond flours and coconut flours and the cookies with the xylitol and the, butter and all that
Ready.
stuff? It's like,
I love it. I love
well,
it.
no, I mean, I've eaten these things and they're not bad tasting,
Yeah, of course.
but,
Good
and
job.
I don't know if I don't know if that creates
Chase this guy
it
with the
doesn't
webcam.
create a sweet craving. It's out there, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of the problem is the way it looks.
Yeah.
Okay, the cookies are flatter, and you don't get that whole fluff effect. It's frostings, but it tastes good. It's very esoteric. Is that the right word? No, you have to have that aesthetic, cookie aesthetics. Okay, so all right. So what's your
this is
opinion
the
on that?
big, this is possibly the biggest issue when we give you guys a list of things that you can and can't eat. Is you look at it and you see like chickpeas, for example, and you go to the store and you get a chickpea pasta, but then you eat so much chickpea pasta that's doing the complete opposite of what the chickpeas or what all the good foods are supposed to do for you, right? And it's going to the store, it's seeing Simple Mills, almond flour crackers, you turn it around, it's only like 4 ingredients, you're like, these are all on the list. But then you eat box after box of these, it's still affecting your insulin levels.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah,
So if you are eating cookies like that with xylitol, it's still increasing your insulin levels. If you're trying to lose weight, you'll never do it.
How about homemade? Where I know what's going into it. Because what I'm speaking of is friends of mine that cook like this and they bake
If you
like
made
this.
the almond flour yourself, right, and it was raw almonds and it wasn't processed and you didn't go buy the bag from the grocery store and it was processed, then it may not affect your insulin levels. But if you made it yourself at home, that would be better. But
I have paid for a pound of almond flour. It better be organic because that guy. I forgot the brand.
It's-
He's got the funny hat. He's from New Hampshire.
Yeah, red.
Whatever. Yeah. So is
Yeah.
that?
it's still minimally processed for the most part. It's still going to affect your insulin levels.
To a certain degree, not
To
a
a
ton,
certain
but
degree.
to a certain degree. Yeah.
Oh.
But then what I would say is that would be your cheat, right? That would be like, okay, I'm having these homemade cookies made from almond flour that I have once every month or once every 2 weeks or something. But you're not having it every day.
That's the idea. People they just want to have the same foods, but just make it healthy for them. Eat real food, and you'll be fully full because you'll be nutrified, full of nutrients. That's the idea. It's okay to do that once in a while, but not every day like he's talking about, because it will affect insulin levels. Any other questions down here? Any other questions?
I got them.
You already answered them?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's wrap
Last
up.
thing. The most common thing I hear from people when we talk about all this stuff is like, well, it's Monday night. I'm not going to start tomorrow. It's Tuesday, right? I'm going to start next Monday, or it's the end of the year. Right, the holidays are coming up. I'm going to start January 1st.
Oh yeah,
Actually, no, let me start January 2nd because I'm going out January 1st.
yes,
That's
true.
I hear that way too often. Just do it. Just start. Go to the store, buy some bone broth. Let's get it going. We're here to help you guys in whatever way. We have patients that have seen extremely beneficial results. If you guys are here to lose weight, we can help you lose weight. If you're here to reverse diabetes or to reverse whatever chronic disease, we can help you reverse whatever chronic disease that you've been dealing with for the past 20, 30 years, right? But just what we're talking about is just live the healthiest life that you possibly can. If you have family members or friends that have also been dealing with issues, whether that's IBS or Crohn's disease, or whether that's allergies or whatever it may be, get them into the office. Let us do the talking. You guys don't have to talk them into anything, right? We can help them. Okay, we've seen way too many results of people reverse all these things that we know what we're doing. Okay, and in this protocol, this plan, this 3-step plan, it's not as hard as what you guys are making that like in your minds out to be. Okay, just go buy the bone broth from Food and Thought. It's already made, and just start it. Okay. Good.
Upcoming events. What's our upcoming events? We have a bunch. of them.
We have Friends and Family Day. If you know anyone that you want to get in here, we're doing exam and X-rays. Normally it's $130. We're doing it for just a donation to our food drive. All they have to do is bring canned foods or whatever it may be that they want to donate to the food drive, and we'll do an exam and X-rays for them. Okay, so friends and family, community dinner on December 7th. Invite your friends and family to our community dinner at Food and Thought, where we sit down. We do a talk similar to this one, maybe not as long, yeah, more basic. Okay, but then we buy dinner for everyone. It allows us, like I said, to do the talking, so you guys don't have to.
And we're talking about these same principles.
We talk about the same principles.
Let's join us for a bone broth.
And we have a toy drive December 16th.
There's real food at the dinner.
It's just bone broth.
So there's real food at the dinner.
So good.
Just for you, you're getting bone broth.
Yeah, exactly. Sybil will
Just
have a
for
special
Sybil.
spot just for her.
But no Brussels sprouts.
That's good. Thanks for being here, guys. We appreciate it. We'll be here for questions if you have any. Okay.
Thank you.